Welcome to English 10 Minutes. Today, we have a story for the quiet part of your heart. It's a story about how a simple sound, just a single word, can change the way you see yourself and the world. Let's listen together. My name is Alara. It sounds like a secret from a star, something beautiful and distant. But I never felt like Alara in the quiet hallways of Northwood High and on the cracked sidewalks of my small town. I was just a girl who tried not to take up too much space. My shoulders were always a little curved. My eyes were usually looking down at my worn-out sneakers, and my voice was soft, easy to ignore. My name felt like a beautiful dress that was 2 sizes too big for me. People rarely said it, right? Teachers, with their red pens and tired eyes, would call me Ellie, or their voices always went up at the end, like they weren't sure. Friends, when I had them, shortened it to L. It was easier, quicker. It fit me better, they thought. An easy, quick, short name for a simple, quiet, small girl. I never corrected them. It felt easier than explaining. Explaining would mean I wanted to be seen, and being seen was terrifying. My life was a collection of quiet moments. The smell of rain on hot pavement in July, the way the afternoon sun painted long, lonely shadows across my bedroom floor, the soft scratch of my pencil in my sketchbook, where I drew the world I saw but wasn't really a part of. I drew faces in the crowd, trees with twisted branches, and the sad, hopeful look in the eyes of stray cats. I was an observer, a ghost with a sketchbook. My name, Alara, with its music and its light, belonged to the girl I drew in my dreams, not the girl who was afraid to order her own coffee. One Tuesday, the sky was a perfect, aching blue. I was walking home, taking the long way, when I passed a small, forgotten shop. Stardust and vinyl. The faded sign said it was squeezed between a laundromat and a closed-down bakery. I had passed it 100 times, but today, something pulled me in. Maybe it was the deep, quiet rhythm of a bass guitar I could feel through the soles of my shoes. It was a sound that didn't ask for attention. It just was. I pushed open the heavy wooden door, and a small bell chimed, announcing my arrival to a room that smelled of old paper, dust, and something warm, like cinnamon. The shop was a beautiful mess. Piles of records covered every surface, and old concert posters with curled edges decorated the walls. Sunlight streamed through the dusty front window, making golden lines in the air that danced with floating dust motes. It was the kind of place you could get lost in, a place where time seemed to slow down. Behind a tall counter, surrounded by towers of vinyl, a boy was carefully cleaning a record with a soft cloth. He didn't look up when I came in. He was focused, his head bent, and a pair of large headphones covered his ears. He had dark, messy hair that fell over his forehead, and long fingers that moved over the black vinyl with a gentle, careful touch. He looked like he belonged here, a part of the quiet magic of the place. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He hadn't seen me. I was still invisible. It was safe. I started to explore, my fingers tracing the spines of the record sleeves. I saw names I knew: the Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, names I didn't. Each one felt like a small, flat world of sound and feeling. I found a section for movie soundtracks and started looking for the score from an old film my mom loved. As I reached for it, my elbow bumped a small stack of CDs on a shelf. They clattered to the floor, breaking the quiet hum of the room. My cheeks felt hot. I immediately bent down, my heart pounding, and started to gather them. Suddenly, a hand appeared in front of me, picking up the last CD. I looked up. The boy from the counter was kneeling in front of me. He had taken off his headphones. His eyes were the color of warm honey, and they were kind. There was no annoyance in them, only a quiet curiosity. "It's okay," he said. His voice was low and calm, like the bass I'd heard from outside. "This shelf is a little unstable. I'm so sorry," I mumbled, looking down at the CD in his hand. He stood up and put the CD back on the shelf. Then he carefully moved the stack to a safer spot. I stood up too, my hands feeling empty and awkward. I wanted to run, to disappear back into the bright afternoon and never come back. I turned to leave. "Are you looking for anything special?" he asked. I stopped, my back still to him. I almost said no, but then I thought of my mom and the music she loved. I turned back around slowly. Maybe the soundtrack for a movie. It's called Echoes of a Summer." He smiled, a small, real smile. "I think I know it. It's an old one. Let me check the back. If we don't have it, I can order it for you." He disappeared behind a shelf. A minute later, he returned, shaking his head. "Sorry, it's not here, but I can definitely get it. I'll just need a name for the order." My stomach tightened. The question, the one that always made me feel strange. "Alara," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I waited for the usual response. The pause, the confused frown. The "how do you spell that?" or the incorrect guess. "Oh, Ellie." I looked down at a crack in the wooden floor, bracing myself, but it never came. He was writing on a small notepad behind the counter. He looked up at me, the pen still in his hand. The soft music from the speakers, a gentle guitar melody, seemed to lean in to listen. The world outside the dusty window faded away. For a second, the only things that existed were the smell of old records, the golden light, and the boy with honey-colored eyes. And then he said it. Elara, he didn't ask it like a question. He said it like a statement, like a fact, like my name was something he already knew, something that made perfect sense. He said it softly, with no sharp edges. The E was gentle, the L flowed like water, and the air at the end was warm and open, like the sky after a storm. He pronounced it perfectly, effortlessly. It wasn't a performance, it was just my name. For the first time in my life, I heard it. I really heard it, and it was beautiful. A strange warmth spread through my chest, starting from my heart and reaching out to my fingertips. It felt like stepping into a warm house on a cold day. It was the feeling of being seen, not just looked at, but truly, completely seen. In that single moment, hearing my name spoken with such simple, calm certainty, I felt real. I wasn't the invisible girl. I wasn't a mistake or a question. I was alive. He smiled again, that same quiet smile. It's a nice name. It will be here on Friday. Look. He said it again, the same way. I think my heart actually skipped a beat. I just nodded, unable to speak. I felt like if I tried to talk, 1,000 feelings would spill out and make a mess on his clean floor. So I just gave him a small, wobbly smile, turned around, and walked out of the store. The little bell chimed my exit. When I stepped back onto the sidewalk, the world looked different. The blue of the sky seemed brighter. The leaves on the trees seemed greener. My own reflection in a shop window didn't look so small anymore. My name was echoing in my ears, a beautiful, perfect sound. The way he said my name, that was the hook. That was the moment everything began to change. I went back on Friday. I told myself it was just to pick up the soundtrack for my mom, but my hands were shaking a little as I pushed open the door to Stardust and Vinyl. The same bell chimed. Liam I had learned his name was Liam was there, arranging a display of new arrivals. He looked up and smiled when he saw me. Hey, your record came in, he said. And my heart did that silly little jump again. He handed me the record. Our fingers brushed for a second, and a jolt of electricity, soft and surprising, shot up my arm. Thank you, I said, my voice a little stronger this time. Do you like old music? He asked, leaning against the counter. My mom does, I answered honestly. I don't know much about it. You should, he said simply. There's a whole world in here. He picked up a record sleeve. The cover showed a woman with long, flowing hair, standing in a field of wildflowers. This is Joni Mitchell. She's like a poet with a guitar. She paints pictures with her words. He put the record on the turntable behind the counter and gently lowered the needle. A voice, clear and high and full of emotion, filled the quiet shop. It was beautiful and sad and hopeful all at once. We stood there for a whole song, not speaking, just listening. I felt like he had shared a secret with me. After that, I started visiting the shop every few days. Sometimes I bought something. Sometimes I just listened. Liam taught me about music. He showed me how a bass line could be the heart of a song, how a sad lyric could make you feel less alone. He never made me feel stupid for not knowing things. He would just put on a record and say, just listen to this part. We started talking about more than music. I showed him my sketchbook one afternoon. I was terrified, but he looked through the pages with the same careful respect he gave his records. He didn't say you're so talented, or any of the other generic things people say. He pointed to a drawing of an old man sitting on a park bench. I like his eyes, Liam said quietly. You made them look like he's remembering something he lost. He didn't just see the lines on the paper, he saw the feeling behind them. Just like he didn't just hear the sounds in my name, he heard the music. I started to feel less like a ghost and more like a person. I still felt quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was my quiet. It wasn't born from fear anymore. It was calm. One evening, in late October, the air was crisp and smelled of falling leaves. Liam and I walked to Miller's Hill, a small park that overlooked our town. The sky was a soft canvas of orange, pink, and purple. We sat on an old wooden bench, the Joni Mitchell record I had bought resting between us. We didn't talk much. We just watched the lights of the town begin to sparkle below us as the sun disappeared. For a long time, I had felt like my town was a cage. Small, boring, and predictable. But sitting there with him, it looked different. It looked peaceful. It looked like home. You know why I like your name? Liam asked suddenly, his voice soft in the growing twilight. I turned to look at him. His profile was outlined by the last light of the day. No, there's a small constellation near Orion. It's not famous. It's just a little cluster of stars. It's called Alara's Veil, he said. My grandpa showed it to me when I was a kid. He said it was shy, that you could only see it if you looked carefully, when the rest of the sky was really dark and quiet. He turned his head and his honey-colored eyes met mine. When you said your name that first day, that's what I thought of. Something quiet and rare and beautiful. Something you have to be patient to see. Tears pricked my eyes, but they were happy tears. All my life, I thought my name was a mistake, a fancy label on the wrong box, but he had given it a story. He had given it a home in the night sky. He saw a constellation where I only saw a quiet, awkward girl. I realized he hadn't done some grand, magical thing. He had just paid attention. He had listened, he had looked past the surface and seen me. And in his seeing me, he had taught me how to see myself. The girl who loved the smell of rain and drew sad-eyed cats wasn't a ghost. She was a person with a quiet world inside her. A person deserving of a beautiful name. He reached out and gently touched my cheek, his thumb wiping away a tear I didn't know had fallen. The warmth of his hand was steady and real. He leaned in a little, and he whispered it just for me, soft as the evening air. Alara. This time, when I heard it, it didn't just sound beautiful. It sounded like me. My name hadn't changed. The town hadn't changed. Bye, Ed. He didn't just say my name. He gave it back to me. Thank you for spending this time with us. Sometimes, the most important lessons aren't loud. They are whispered in a quiet moment, in the sound of a familiar word said in a new way. We hope this story reminds you to listen carefully. Keep learning, keep feeling, and we'll see you in the next story.